Welcome back, fellow audio enthusiasts, for another episode of Two-Channel Listening. I am your host, Jason. For this week, it's going to be a cheap amp challenge, and quite frankly, probably one of my shortest reviews yet. I know that's not saying a whole lot. We have the AudioControl Architect Series 110. It is a 2-channel amplifier, Class D topology. It is rated at 60 watts at 8 ohms, doubles 120 watts at 4 ohms, and is 2 ohms stable. Plus, it also happens to be bridgeable for a total of over 400 watts. Why an Architect Integrator Series amplifier, you ask? Well, many of you may remember that a couple of months ago, I actually decided to change careers and go to work for a custom integrator in the Treasure Valley area of Idaho. What's intrigued me about that side of the business? I've known 2-channel audio for so many years now and have played with literally hundreds of different combinations and components, but lesser known to me are a lot of the brands that are on that custom integrator side. What's been really interesting to me and even fascinating or say intriguing is the compromises that homeowners make when building brand new custom homes, or the expectations that they have from an audio video system. Some of their priorities are that the system is completely transparent, or shall we say invisible. With an invisible system, you have speakers that are in the ceiling, speakers that are in the walls, subwoofers that are built into the floor, subwoofers that are built into the ceiling. Not to mention most, if not all, of your audio components are hidden in a mechanical closet somewhere in the house. When somebody doesn't have to spend extra money on fancy veneered wood or extra bracing or really high-end custom cabinets to deal with internal resonances, that you would think custom integrated products would be a little bit cheaper with that in mind. That isn't the case, and especially as I've dove into some new brands to me, or learning about a lot of the different brands that I have not been exposed to. Some of those brands being James Loudspeaker, Triad out of Oregon, Leon custom speakers. And then you have the more normal known, say Sonance, for example, Sonance amplifiers and integrated speakers. There's a lot of that out there within that market. And when I get the chance to actually find a piece that could just drop right into my existing rig, I would love to share that experience with my audience. If there's a way to get better sound and there's a shortcut that might save you guys some money, I always want to share that with my viewers. This just doesn't happen to be the case, even though this unit from AudioControl is only $700. And let me get into that. Okay. So, for the entire time that I borrowed this AudioControl unit from our shop, I plugged it in the system and I let it run for a couple of days just to to get normalized, to get my bearings with it, and to let the Class D basically stay at idle or cooking the entire time. It's already a super efficient system. I believe it uses less than 5 watts in idle, and it generates absolutely zero heat when left on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It does have a automatic signal detection, so when the NAD was not sending us a playback signal to it, it would go into a standby mode. But as soon as I would hit play on the NAD, my C658, it would pick the signal up and turn on instantly, which is always a nice feature for custom integrated products. I wish regular 2-channel amps from the big companies would put that into their systems. It just makes a lot of sense to have that option. Now, Most of my source, again, being that it was the NAD C658, the NAD C658 for those that don't like me to say NAD. I used my HG track sources from an internal server library that I have, the Synology 216 Play, or most of the time it was with Amazon HD, Amazon Prime. Sitting down and listening to my Opera Grand Mezza speakers, those lovely little Italian towers that I've been hinting at coming up in the few weeks. Those are very nice speakers, and they have a typical warm, lush Italian sound to them, much like Sonus Faber. So when I sat down to let the architect play and show me what it's got, quite frankly, I was completely underwhelmed by its performance. Most of the focus seemed to be above the 500 hertz range. And I say that because there was just about no bass coming out of the operas whatsoever. Now, I could turn it up, crank it past 85 dB, and yes, there were bass notes there, there was drum hits, the cellos were there, but just in general, the bass presence, it just seemed like it was gone, like it was sucked out of the room. When I plugged in the Sony M3s that I reviewed a few weeks ago, above 70 dB, they were absolutely unlistenable. Just way too much focus in the very high-end treble regions. And then I have those green speakers, my performance number ones from Eryk Concept, my go-to bookshelf loudspeakers. I can rely on those having a very solid upper 30 hertz range in the bass. And yet again, with this Architect Series amplifier, it was just devoid of low-end grunt. There was nothing there. It just had so much focus in the upper mid-range and in this treble energy that after a while, I thought I actually hooked something up wrong, and I would continue to go back to the amp and mess with the RCA inputs, even change out some of my cables. Because the other thing I noticed was that from song to song, there was no strong presence of a phantom center channel. There was actually, with each song, there was a drift left to right, sometimes extreme left, extreme right, based on the song. And rarely did I find any songs, even save for Johnny Cash's cover album of 9 Inch Nails' Hurt. That particular song was the few songs where Johnny Cash was front and center and his vocals were locked in. Everything else, there was this absolute drift to a left or right, and it just made me less confident when I would continue to go look at how I had the speaker wires connected, how I'd have my RCAs connected, which is such a funny thing for somebody who's plugged in over 200 different components to not remember, to think that, man, maybe I did something wrong with the interconnects. And no, everything was plugged in correctly. It was just that strange of an amplifier. Then I decided I have to take the hood off of this thing and see what's going on internally. And I will share those pictures with you. So, once again, the Architect Series, this is a current product offering from AudioControl. Now, AudioControl is well known for making their concert series AVRs that are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, folks, on the retail market. And they're very well known for having awesome integrated products for custom installations. Yes, this is their cheaper line. This is at the bottom, entry-level budget. But for $700, I would still have higher expectations from such a vaunted brand of custom integrated products. Lo and behold, this particular model is a 2017 manufacturer date product, but yet when I took the hood off of it, I was extremely disappointed by what I found in the amp circuit. It has a Class D amp board stamped from 2009. I was instantly reminded of my Pioneer Elite SC35 AVR, one of the first big purchases I made that brought me into the audiophile kingdom, as you will. That particular Class D amplifier had a lot of similar traits. While the Pioneer had way more power and definitely did have some bass, it had cutoffs at the extreme to where it didn't have actual bass slam. It was very rolled off and polite. And at the upper treble range, again, it was rolled off and very polite. Very interesting that this 2017 amplifier was still sporting a Class D amp section from 2009, given all the improvements of Class D today. I would have thought with the very chunky transformer that maybe that would have helped, but it didn't. This amplifier is just one of the least interesting, one of the most underwhelming products I think I've reviewed in my entire time as a reviewer. And that's where this Yamaha AX592 comes into play. This is a 1997 integrated amplifier. Definitely the lower end of the Yamaha stable from that time, but yet it was built with very quality parts at that time. Large transformer, very good Class AB circuit, good for 100 watts to 2 channels. And this thing retailed in 1997 for $489 wherever you were in the United States at that time. When I plugged this in and let it warm up for just a couple of hours and sat down with my same Opera Mezza speakers, Grand Mezzas, it was night and day. While again, Yamahas have a Yamaha sound to them, have a very Japanese sound, let me just say that this $100 Salvation Army Rescue amplifier just kicked the living daylights out of the AudioControl Architect Series 110 amplifier. It wasn't even close, folks. And that's part of what this channel is always about. I'm going to be truthful. I'm going to be brutal. AudioControl is not going to like me. And the fact that I work for a custom integrator in the Valley, they're probably going to be less happy with me if they ever happen to see this. But I don't care. Something that could be found locally for $100. Mind you, well researched, that I can't believe this was at the Salvation Army. That just goes to show it's worth taking the time to make some trips every now and then. And I thank Dave from Authentic Audio, Idaho, of showing me this and buying it and then giving it to me. You'd be amazed at the kind of 2-channel systems that you can put together with patience and with time in researching. Now, I do a lot more small little tidbits with my Instagram series. And last week, if you guys have been paying attention, I actually posted a short clip on Instagram last week with the Yamaha 592 connected to a very lovely, another budget find in the local area, a Denon DCD 1650 AR CD player, a $1,000 CD player when it came out, and it was bought locally in awesome shape with a remote for $150. Add that to the Sony M3s that were bought for just under $400. I put a little clip of Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, and wow, just a great little under $700 2-channel system that was found locally here in the Treasure Valley of Idaho. Those of you who are in the bigger cities have access to so much more older, vintage-ish audiophile gear, and there are great 2-channel systems that can be put together for under $1,000. And as a matter of fact, a couple of days later, Dave had another great piece for me. He had the NAD 7400 PE, the second to the top of the line receiver from that same vintage area. Cost another $100 over what the Yamaha was. didn't have a remote, but interestingly enough, my current remote with my current C658 still worked with that 7400 PE. That's a 1989 receiver, by the way. Hats off to NAD for something like that still working with a regular IR remote from today. And the NAD has an even more luscious, warm sound with those same M3s. And then I put them into the big system and gave you guys another little quick demo on Instagram if you want to check that out. So like I said, this is going to be a very short review. After only 5 days of living with the AudioControl Architect 110 amplifier, it wasn't worth spending more time and trying to find more speakers that would synergize with it. With the four different speakers that I had on hand, none of them had any bass presence whatsoever, and I would put all my money betting on the fact that that 2009 chipset being in this amplifier is the major Achilles heel of it. I am not going to say that I would not pick up another AudioControl item in the future. I've been already looking for the Savoy series, which happens to have the Class H amplification, the Class G amplification, much like what Arcam uses. And if I can find a good budget eBay find or something else from a customer where I can do a 2 or 5 channel AudioControl Savoy series Class G amplifier, I will report back. I'm sure that at triple the price, it better have at least double the performance. So with that, this one was easy. This one was simple. I have got a lot of stuff sitting in the other room. I know I'm way behind. I thank you viewers who are continuing to stick with me as I navigate this new career, as I navigate the new house, trying to come up with different schedules to be, more consistent with my reviews. But I at least have a lot of products sitting in the next couple of rooms that Amanda is exuding angelic levels of patience with me. Thank you, dear. I appreciate you supporting this channel and supporting my efforts and not making me stack everything up outside on the back patio. Love you, baby. And thank you, viewers, for checking in on this quick review of the AudioControl Architect 110 series. If you have any further questions about it or similar products, you know where to find me, and you can email me at any given time. Thank you.